Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, where we interview location-independent entrepreneurs that travel the world like a boss by being their own boss. Here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hi, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 215 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm sitting here in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and my guest today is Fiona Maine. Welcome.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome. You're from London.
I am, yeah.
UK.
London.
And we met really randomly.
Yeah, really randomly, only yesterday, at Ama coffee shop in Chiang Mai. It was really random. I'd just been working in there in the morning. I just had a coffee and I came out, and for some reason I looked behind and I thought, hold on, is that Johnny FD? And I wasn't quite sure, and then you walked out and it was you. And I knew you because I've been following your podcast for the last couple of years, and I went up to you and just thought I'd say hi. And I'd actually reached out to you about a year and a half ago to thank you via Facebook because you'd inspired me quite a lot on my journey. And a long time ago, I'd sent this message and said if I ever happened to be in the same city as you, I would like to take you out for lunch to thank you. And there you were. You were in the same city as me. So I thought, well, I got to do it. So I went to say hello.
Yeah, it's perfect. And I'm glad you came up. I love hearing from people, especially people who have been following for a while, and especially people who take action. So congratulations on doing that and being successful.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for lunch too. That was good.
It was good. It was a good lunch. Yeah.
Yeah. And also that coffee shop. If any of you are coming to Chiang Mai and you want really good, like locally grown coffee, Ama, I think they're a social cause. They're not really, they're not like Starbucks or something.
Yeah, independent.
Yeah, and they work with the Thai farmers, I think in probably Chiang Rai or somewhere in the mountains of Chiang Mai, and they roast their own beans. It's excellent coffee.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. And I've had a lot of coffees in Chiang Mai, and it was definitely up there in like the top 3, I'd say.
Yeah. And it's my kind of go-to place for buying beans. So,
right. That's a good tip.
Yeah, so I actually drove there just to buy beans.
Oh, that's why you were there? Right, yeah. Well, I might have to buy some beans there. I try and make my own coffee in the morning. I'm always trying to find good places to buy coffee.
Yeah, so perfect. And so we just happened to meet, and you sent me, when you sent me the screenshot of our original conversation, it was perfect because, it was so long ago.
Yeah.
And I had completely forgotten what we had talked about. And when you sent it to me, I was like, I have to have you on the show.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I figured that you probably would have forgotten because it was about a year and a half ago I sent you that message. And I think I sent it to you via Facebook Messenger, and I'm sure you get a lot of random messages. So there's no way you would remember, especially as we'd never met in person before. But I think I just sent you a message to say thank you for all the ideas and inspiration that you've given me through your podcast, because I listened to literally every single episode. And I actually sent that message to you when I first became location independent. And I think I sent it from Koh Lanta when which was the first co-working space that I ever went to when I started being a digital nomad.
Nice. And can we rewind a little bit back to your life in London? Why did you start traveling?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in London and I lived in London most of my life. I did travel quite a bit when I was, after I left school, so around the age of 19. That was more backpacking and doing some volunteering abroad. But after that, I pretty much just started working in London and spent about 7 or 8 years just working in London. And I did travel when I got holidays and things, and I would take trips wherever I could. But I was pretty much working 9 to 5, doing a number of different jobs, all in graphic design and marketing. And for the past, before I quit my last job, I had been in the same role for 5 years, or the same company, I should say, for 5 years. And that was working as a marketing executive. And it was a good job. I enjoyed it. It was really nice people. And, the pay was okay. But London is really expensive. It's a difficult place to live. Even if you're earning a lot of money, it's still expensive. And, I think I was really struggling, to be honest. I had student debt, as a lot of people do who, graduated and just trying to get by in the city. And I also felt that the job I was in, although, you know, it wasn't a bad job, I didn't feel that I was really passionate about it. And my degree was illustration, so I'm creative and I always wanted to work in a creative role. And I had sort of ended up segueing more into the design and marketing side of things, and it had sort of become progressively less and less creative. And I just kind of could see my future ahead of me, and it wasn't the future that I wanted for myself, and I knew I needed to make a big change.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I've heard a lot of people go through a similar story where they're making pretty good money living back home, whether it's London, somewhere in the US or in Australia, and they had a decent life. You know, I'm sure to a lot of people, you know, to your friends or your family, they're like, well, you know, Molly's made it, right? She has a great job, probably had a good company, living in London, you know, wearing your Burberry raincoats.
It wasn't quite that. It wasn't quite Burberry. But that's the thing. I think a lot of people have this facade, or they give off the impression that they are making a lot of money or that they have a really good lifestyle. And there's a lot of that keeping up appearances. But, you know, realistically, a lot of people are really struggling. And I was one of those people. And, you know, I was paying a lot for my rent because rent's expensive in London. And at the end of each month, I was not able to save anything. I was honestly coming home at the end of each month and I barely went out to eat, or, you know, saving up for a holiday became impossible. And as someone who loved to travel and had traveled when I was younger and had that travel bug, that really started to get to me, because I realized that travel was something I was really passionate about and a really big part of me. I wanted to see the world. And two of the things that I really wanted to do were to travel and to be more creative, to draw. And I felt they were really important things to me. And I realized that I wasn't doing either of them. And it just got to a point where I thought, I really need to make a big change now.
That is really incredible that you, first off, that you acknowledged what you really wanted. I think so many of us kind of go through life not really knowing what we want. And then even if we have a dream of what we want, we don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
Or we don't think it's possible for us. It could have been, you know, really easy for you just to stay at that job. You know, you probably would still have an okay life, you know, and nobody would blame you. Nobody would be like, oh, why aren't you chasing your dreams?
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, was it hard was it difficult, you know, to have those conversations with your friends or your family or your coworkers or boss when you decided to embark on this journey?
It was really, really hard. And I probably spent about 3 or 4 months thinking about it before I actually made the plunge. And for me, the difficult thing was that I had no money. So I had a lot of debt from being a student, and I was gradually paying that off. And
can I ask how much you were earning at that time working in London?
It was about £30,000 a year.
So that's quite a bit. That's like $50,000.
It was, but you know what? That might sound a lot, but it's not that much. When you were in London,
what were you spending?
I was spending all of it. Like every month I had nothing left, because my rent was almost £1,000 a month, and my travel card, just to literally get to work and back, was costing me about over £100 a month. So it all adds up.
Yeah. So you weren't taking like black cabs and...
No, I'd feel guilty if I even took like one Uber. So, which is crazy to think now, but you know, so London was really expensive, and I had got in a lot of debt, and it was pretty bad.
So not only did you have the student loan debt, you got into more debt?
Well, it was after university. During university and during that time when I was a student, I think it was after I graduated, and you know, in my first job, I was hardly making any money, and I ended up using credit cards and just getting myself into debt. It's quite common, unfortunately, with a lot of people who have just graduated. So I think the time after I graduated was pretty tough, because I was just really struggling to make ends meet. But one day it really came to a head, and I realized I needed to get myself out of the debt. And I actually read this book that was really helpful. And it was, I think it was called How to Get Out of Debt. It's got a really awful name. It's a really embarrassing name, but it's called How to Get Out of Debt, Stay Out of Debt, and Live Prosperously. And so I read this book, and it was really helpful because it gives you like a step-by-step guide on what to do to get out of debt and budgeting. And I realized that if I wanted to travel and I wanted to do these things, the first thing I had to do was to get out of debt. So I kind of worked through these steps. I actually took on a second job, And so I was working literally all the hours. So I had my main 9 to 5 job. And then I took on a second job on a Sunday, working as a receptionist in a yoga studio. And the money was like minimum wage. It was bad, but and I was really ashamed because I didn't tell anyone that I had this second job, because I didn't want my coworkers to know that I was really broke, even though, looking back on it, turns out they all were too.
Yeah. That financial shame is a huge thing back home. It's crazy how few people are honest with, even to themselves.
Yeah.
How much money they have or how much they're spending.
Yeah.
When I was living in California, it seemed like everybody was rich. It seemed like everyone had unlimited money. And 5 years later, some of those friends are 20, 30 grand in credit card debt.
Yeah.
Just from supporting the lifestyle of us going out every weekend, drinking, even just going out to eat all the time. They just were keeping up with each other. Everybody was too embarrassed.
That's it, the shame.
Yeah. And, we always had new clothes. We're always, going to the mall.
Yeah.
Everybody would, buy a new car every 2 or 3 years, and it sucked. All right. And now our lives are complete opposite.
Complete opposite. Yeah. I think that was absolutely the case. And looking back on it now, it's kind of hard to imagine, but that is the way a lot of people live, and there's a lot of competitiveness. People get something new, and then everyone feels that they've got to have the latest phone or the latest handbag and things like that, and you get stuck in this cycle. But once I'd sort of read this book and I made this plan, I'm going to get out of debt, and this was I really decided this was an important part of what I needed to do to break free from this. So I got the second job. I started really budgeting. I started saying no to going out and doing things unless I really, really wanted to do them. And it totally worked. I started paying things off. And once I made this decision that once I paid off my debt.
How much was the debt in total?
It was about £10,000.
Wow. So it's like $15,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
After I paid it off, I was like, right, I'm going to quit my job. But it was funny because it was the richest I'd ever felt in my life. But in reality, I had zero because I paid off my debt, but I had no money. So for most people, they would think, you can't, just quit your job with zero money. But for me, it was the richest I'd ever felt. So, however, I knew I wanted to go traveling, and I knew, but I'd been traveling before backpacking, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work, but I didn't know, I'd never heard of a digital nomad, or I didn't know about working online or anything like that. All I knew is I just needed to get out of London, and I needed to get out of that job, and I needed to just give myself a space where I could think about what I wanted to do next. And I needed to do that somewhere really cheap because I didn't have much money. So it was a difficult conversation with my boss and also with my family as well, because they knew that I'd been struggling with debt all this time, and they were so happy for me, that my family, that I had got free from it. But they were also obviously very worried for me to just then go off. And what was I going to do? How was I going to support myself? And so my plan at the time was that I was going to try and get a work placement that would give me free food and free accommodation, and I could do some work to get some experience, and it would buy me time to figure out a plan. And so I quit my job and just took that 1 month's paycheck, that last month, and that was all I had. And the placement that I found was in a yoga school in India. And it was doing graphic design and marketing for the yoga school. And in exchange, it was a 6-month placement. So I figured, right, I'll live in India for 6 months. I'll live at this yoga school, I'll get free food, free accommodation, and I've got free yoga classes. And in my free time, I would figure out what to do next.
That sounds like a dream for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. It sounds kind of idyllic. In reality, it actually was very, very hard work. And although I'm really glad I did it, and it was definitely the first step to get me to where I am now, there were certain elements of it that were very hard. Yeah,
so you definitely want to do that again, I'm sure.
So I would definitely recommend to other people to look at work placements. There are some really amazing ones out there, and I would do if somebody didn't have much money, but they really knew that they wanted to make this change. I think it can be a really good stepping stone if you've got a little bit of cash to keep you going. But just do your research into the company. So for me, it was a 6-month placement. And after 4 months, I decided to leave because I found out that the company itself was doing a lot of things that I really disagreed with. And I had to leave, basically. It was very fundamentally wrong, in my opinion, the kind of things they were doing. So,
like shady marketing or just back end stuff?
It was a lot worse than
Wow.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
I won't get into the details of it, but it was unfortunately a pretty bad situation, and I had to leave pretty instantly.
Okay.
And so I decided to up and leave one day once I'd found out these things that this company was up to. And it was a bit tricky because I was 4 months into this placement. I hadn't figured out my next plan. And my funds from this 1 month paycheck were obviously super low, even though I was in India. And I didn't really know anyone. The only people I knew were these yogis in the yoga school, and I was leaving them. And I was in India. I'd never been in India before. I loved India. It was an amazing place, but, it's India. And so there was this one person that I had met in India that wasn't at the yoga school. And he was this guy called Pete, and I'd met him. He owned a bar, and I'd been to that bar and just hung out a few times. And he was really cool. He was English as well. And we had made friends on Facebook. And he was the only person I knew in India. So I left this yoga school. I checked into like a guest house, and I messaged him on Facebook. I didn't even know if he'd reply. And I just said, hey, I've left this yoga school. I'm kind of stuck in India. I don't really know what I'm doing next. Where are you? Can I come hang out? And he replied, and he said, yeah, I'm in this cafe in this town in the Himalayas. It was like 10 hours away. But yeah, why don't you come here and just hang out with me? So I didn't have any other option. My other option was to fly home, but I didn't even have enough money for a ticket at that point. So I got on a bus and I did a 10-hour bus journey across the Himalayas to this town to meet Pete. And I got there. Just about, if anyone ever takes a 10-hour bus ride across the Himalayas, I recommend seriously taking like a sick bag or something, because it's a bumpy journey.
I can imagine. Wow.
But it was okay. It was like, it wasn't too bad. And then I got there and I met up with Pete in this cafe. A cafe called Rendezvous.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. In a place called Manali, which is one of the most beautiful towns in northern India. I love it so much. I recommend it to anyone who's in that region. And I met up with him, and he was a really cool guy. He's an entrepreneur. He owns a couple of bars, and he's really chilled out, and the kind of person I needed when I was sort of panicking and thinking, what the hell am I going to do next with my life? So he said, look, just chill in this bar, in this cafe. And tell me what happened. I'll help you figure out a plan. So I kind of told him my story. And he was just hanging out there for a couple of months because his bar was closed because it was off season. And so he didn't really have much going on. And I told him that I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. But the one thing I did know is that I didn't want to go back to England, and I didn't want to go back to the 9 to 5. I did want to travel and I did want to work, but I didn't know what to do. And he said to me, well, what can you do? And obviously I could do graphic design, illustration and marketing work. That was what I'd been trained to do, but I didn't have the confidence to, I didn't really have any confidence to do that outside of a company. I'd always worked within a company, within a team. And he said, well, why can't, he was an entrepreneur. So for him, it seemed so obvious. Why don't you just set up on your own? And I was kind of thinking about it. Thinking, could I do that? But I didn't have any confidence. And so I started Googling online and about working online. How does it work? Because I'd honestly never really thought about this concept before. And that was when I came across you. And
wow.
I came across your, I don't really know. I think it was actually through YouTube. I first maybe watched one of your videos, and it was you in Chiang Mai, which is kind of ironic because that's where we are now. And I watched one of your videos, and that kind of led me on to finding out about your podcasts. And I saw that you had this podcast called Travel Like a Boss, and I thought, that sounds cool. That's what I want to do. I want to travel, be my own boss, but I didn't know how to do it. So I just scrolled all the way to episode 1, and I just started listening. And then I just listened and listened and just listened to all your episodes.
Wow. And were you still in this little
No,
town?
It took me a while to get through them all. But after listening to about 10 episodes, you had already kind of convinced me that this is something I needed to do. I think pretty early on, you mentioned the 4-hour work week. And so as soon as you mentioned that, I downloaded it and I read it that day. And so I suddenly got in this really positive mindset because I had Pete, who was this really positive guy, giving me encouragement. And then I had you in my ears telling me all these stories of other people that had made it. And then I was reading Tim Ferriss, and, anyone that's read Tim Ferriss will know that he's full of lots of wisdom. So I think it was a mixture of all of these things that made me think, okay, maybe this is something I could do. But what really made me do it was the fact that I only had £17 left in my bank account at this stage. So I was really, really on the edge, and I didn't really know what to do. So I thought, okay, I'm really stuck here. My rent was only £3 a day, so I only had a few days left. And at that point, I thought, how can I get work right now? So I went on Facebook, and I just put a post on Facebook, and it was actually a selfie. A really bad selfie of me sitting in this cafe with my MacBook. And it was like a really old, beaten up MacBook. And I think I just wrote something along the lines of, hey, I'm in India. I've got some free time on my hands. Does anyone need any design or illustration work doing? If so, get in touch. I'll charge Indian prices. And that's all I wrote.
And this was on your personal Facebook page?
Oh, yeah, personal Facebook page. Yeah, just to my friends. And crazily, within 24 hours, all these people, just friends of mine, started commenting, and they started leaving me these messages and things like, hey, yeah, I've got this friend that just started a business. She needs like a new logo. Or, yeah, my friend just really needs a brochure for this thing she's doing. Or, they were small jobs. They were little things. And I was really happy to charge very low prices because I really would take any work I could at that stage. So, but within 24 hours, I had enough work come into my Facebook inbox to pay for another month.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's so many life lessons there just in this story so far. I mean, first, I think the fact that you had this perfect training through your job to be able to bring remote, but you didn't see it. I think this is very common for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet every single person listening right now has some kind of skill set that can be brought online, and you just kind of need someone, looking from afar to say, hey, like, just do that.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I'm sure there's some people listening, in construction or as a plumber or something saying like, what are you talking about? But I guarantee even you, like even, whatever your job is, I bet you have some kind of skill set that can be done online.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hard for us to see it. We almost need a Pete in our life.
Exactly.
Or
we all need a Pete in our life. Yeah, absolutely. And I think even people that don't have a really obvious skill, I now honestly believe that they can, if there's a skill that they want to learn, they can learn it. And I found that myself because I started saying yes to these jobs that people were sending me. And my kind of rule was just say yes to everything. And if I wasn't quite sure how to do it, I would just figure out how to do it. So I just became obsessed with online learning as well. So I realized I needed to upskill. And so I started doing like Udemy courses and just watching loads of YouTube tutorials. If there was something I was kind of good at, but not really good at, I would do whatever I could to try and get better at it so I could charge for it.
That's really smart. I mean, I think it's genius that you started really low just to kind of get people on board, and then you just figure it out, on your own. I mean, there's so many courses that people can take on Udemy, which has a flash sale every other week for $10.
Yeah, I was buying courses for like $5 sometimes, and you can get like loads of hours of content.
Or Skillshare, I think it's a flat $15 a month, and you can take as many courses as you want.
Yeah.
YouTube has a ton of videos out there that might take some more screening. I think YouTube is better if you're looking for like one specific thing, like how do you delete like the background on an image or something, versus trying to learn everything because it's kind of a cluster out there. But it just really shows that it's possible.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I guess kind of going back to the skills, no skills kind of thing. Yeah, at the end of the day, you need something valuable to offer. I think a lot of people, the number one problem with a lot of new nomads that get so excited. I think back then it was a bit harder because there wasn't that much information.
Yeah,
there weren't a ton of nomad bloggers or travel vloggers saying how easy this life is, taking selfie photos on the beach. Back then it was kind of like, if you were going to do it, you really had to be the type of person who either had your back against the wall and you're like, I really need this, or you had to be really kind of self-determined. Now it's so easy that a ton of people show up with literally zero skills to offer, and they're not willing to spend money to take a course or up level those skills, and they're like, okay, now what?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think that you've got to put the hard work in as well. And I mean, it sounds like it just all happened overnight and it was easy, and it wasn't. It was hard, but I worked really hard at it. And I think that's something that I've seen in common with a lot of people who have managed to make this transition. And it's something I heard a lot on your podcast. A lot of the people that I heard you interviewing, they all said the same thing. It's not easy. Once you've picked what it is you want to do, stick at it and work really hard at it, and then you will see results. And I 100% believe that because I've seen it. And that's what I did. And I just kept working, and I made enough to stay in India. I mean, it's not much, obviously, it's India, but I managed to stay there for 2 more months. And I had to leave after 2 months because the visa expired. But by the end of those 2 months, I'd gained so much. I'd gained so much confidence. I had also learned so many new skills. I had a plan. There was I think it was episode 7 on your on the podcast. I think it was Kurt Malika, I think his name was, and he talked about goal setting. And there was a PDF goal setting sheet that you had in the show notes, and I downloaded it. And I remember on the plane when I left India, I sat on that whole plane journey and I filled out that goal sheet, and I still have it today. It was one of the probably the most important things I did, because I never really knew how to write my goals and in an actionable way. Before, I would make, New Year's resolutions or things like that, but I didn't really know how to write them in a way that they would actually happen, or that you could make them happen. And I recommend anyone to download that sheet if they're having any problems setting goals, because it helped me, and it breaks them down into what it is that you actually want in all areas of your life as well. You can look at everything from your work to your love life to your health. And from that, it helped me to make a plan for the next year, the next 5 years. And obviously plans change, and that's okay. But at that time, it was really the next 6 months that I really wanted to plan out. And for me, I decided that I wanted to fly back to the UK and give myself a 6-month goal to save a certain amount of money, to build a website, set my business up to look professional, and to get as many new clients as I can. And then after 6 months was up, I would have sold all my stuff, got rid of everything, and I would leave, and that would be it. I'd be location independent.
Nice. So when you were back in the UK, were you working again?
I didn't go back to the 9-to-5 job. As soon as I got back, I set up as a freelancer. I said, right, I'm a freelance designer. And I taught myself how to build a website that first week that I got back. And I built, it's the same website I have today, actually. I've changed it a bit since then. But and I just started creating work and putting up on my website. I started getting in contact with anyone and everyone that I could that might know somebody that needed work. And I had friends that would put me in touch with people. It's surprising, I think, how many people that might know someone that can help you. You just have to reach out. So I started doing that and just trying to make connections. I contacted people that I used to work with in the past who I'd had a good relationship with, that I knew might be happy to help me or put me in touch with someone that could. So through that, I managed to build up a small base of client base. And I knew that if I was going to live somewhere like Thailand, I only needed, well, not that much. I know people say you can live on $500, but I knew I needed more than that. So I wanted to know I could make around £1,000 a month. And I figured that was my goal, that by the end of the 6 months, I knew I'd be able to make a steady £1,000 a month remotely. Ideally more, but that was the plan. And after 6 months, I had that. And
nice. So congratulations.
Thank you. And one other thing I should probably mention that happened within within this time frame was while I was in India, while I was in that cafe setting up my business, another guy came into the cafe at the time, and he wasn't working remotely. He was trying to sell a motorbike. But we got chatting and we became friends. And we stayed friends for that whole year, even after I came back to London, and we spoke every day on WhatsApp. And that guy is now my boyfriend.
Wow.
So even though when I came back to London and I was setting up my business and doing all that, we weren't together then. We were just friends, and we would speak. He was also trying to set up his remote business as well. And he would also listen to your podcasts, and he actually set up an eBay dropshipping business based on the David Vu method, which was very, very successful. And off the back of that, he managed to become completely location independent as well. And so 9 months later, we decided to meet in Chiang Mai.
Wow.
And we did. So we met, and that was in 2016. 2016. We met in Chiang Mai in the summer, and we were just friends at that stage. But we quickly sort of got together, and since then we've been together and traveling and working together for the last couple of years.
This is amazing. Somebody could take your story and make this into a feature-length film. Like imagine, like it starts, of you in London working a corporate job, and then it moves to, to this yoga studio in India, and then this little town having coffee under the Himalayas, and you meet, you have a meet cute, and it's like I can imagine this in my mind, just even like the scenes, like jumping back and forth from the UK to India, and then meeting in Thailand again, and both of you are now location dependent and making money and just like really living the dream.
It's funny when you put it that way, because when you look back, you can see it that way. You can join the dots, but when it's happening to you, you don't know, because you don't know what's going to happen next. Yeah. You just kind of take these leaps, and you just have to trust that things will work out. So that's what I kept doing again and again, and I'm still doing it to some extent now.
Wow, that's so cool. I'm super curious now if my podcast has helped any other couples out there.
Yeah. I wonder. I'm sure it has. Sure it has.
So if you've met the love of your life through this podcast, or it's helped you, be with them, let me know. I would love to hear some stories.
So it was really great for us, because those 8 months where we were not together, but we were just friends. He was actually traveling in Mexico, and I was in London just hustling, trying to get clients. And we would speak every day on WhatsApp. And during that time, we would both listen to a lot of your podcasts, and we were also reading a lot of the same books. We were reading things like Tim Ferriss and a lot of other business books. And he was doing eBay dropshipping, but also looking to set up an FBA business, which he now has, which is doing really, really well. And I was trying to get my freelance business off the ground. So it was kind of having that common ground. And I think that was probably what brought us together. We both wanted to leave the UK and not to be stuck in a 9-to-5. We both wanted to be location independent, and it was that kind of common passion that really brought us together in Chiang Mai.
That's crazy. So what do you think would have happened if the two of you met at like a Weatherspoons in the UK working your normal job?
I don't think we would, because I don't think either of us go to Weatherspoons. But actually, that's not true. We definitely have both been to Weatherspoons. Not knocking Weatherspoons. But I don't know. I think that when you're doing something you're really excited about, and you're doing something you're passionate about, then you tend to attract people that are interested and passionate about the same things. So, yeah, I guess if I was, really passionate about Weatherspoons, and he was too, then we probably still would have got on. Who knows? But yeah, it worked out. And we were in Chiang Mai for 5 months. Yeah. And Pete came and joined us too, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's so crazy.
And we're still friends with Pete now. He still owns an amazing bar in Goa. So yeah, if anyone's cool. in Goa, they should definitely check out Nada Brahma. It's a very cool bar and restaurant.
Yeah, and if you guys are in the UK, definitely check out Weatherspoons.
Yeah.
Actually, so a lot of people don't know what it is.
You should explain.
Yeah, how would you describe the spoon?
It's like a chain of pubs. And they've actually got pretty cheap prices. So actually, if you're in the UK and you're looking for just a cheap pint and a good like cheap fry up breakfast, then head to Weatherspoons. There's pretty much one in every town.
Especially between 2 and 4 for their happy hours.
Oh, is that it? See, I haven't been in the UK for like properly for about 3 years, so I don't even remember the happy hours. So we stayed in Chiang Mai for I think it was 5 months. And then it was funny because we stayed in separate apartments because we're both pretty independent and we traveled a lot independently before we got together. So I think that's always been a really important part of our relationship, is keeping that independence. And so for the first 5 months, we just said, well, let's just have our own apartments and, you know, just date. And that was kind of cool. So we were in Chiang Mai and we met loads of really cool people here, as you do in Chiang Mai. And it was fun, you know. Everyone says Chiang Mai is like first year of college, and it kind of is, because we were like these newbie digital nomads, going to the coffee shops, not really knowing anything. You hear all these conversations around you about drop shipping and, you know, all these things, and it's kind of exciting. Everyone's hustling. It was fun. And then we were hustling, we were budgeting, we were eating, you know, food for $1 off the street, and but it was really good time.
Yeah, and it was good food.
It was really good food.
It's not, you're not eating $1 food off the street. You're eating
yeah, that sounds awful. It's basically some of the best food you can eat, really, is the cheapest food in Thailand for sure.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is the fact that we find it strange to have 2 separate apartments, you know, in Chiang Mai when you're dating someone, because it's so common to just move in together when you first start dating.
Yeah.
But only in this nomad lifestyle.
Exactly.
If you were living back in London, it would be unheard of to just move in together as soon as you start dating someone.
I know. And that was my thinking as well. We both said that. We said, you know, if we met in London, there's no way we would move in together after a week. That would be crazy. Everyone would say you were crazy, right? So let's just see how it goes.
Yeah. But here it's like, I think it's one of those things where first, you know, it's a budget thing where it's half the price if you're moving together. But second, I almost kind of feel like everything's almost like accelerated here. You know, traveling together, and it's so easy to find a new place. It's not like you have to sell your stuff, move your stuff, sign a year contract. It's kind of like, it's almost like checking into a hotel together.
Yeah, that's true. But I think one thing that I've realized about being in a relationship and being a digital nomad together, it can get quite intense sometimes because you're with each other all the time. And back home, if you were to work in a 9 to 5, then obviously you maybe see each other in the morning, maybe have breakfast together, then you would go to your separate jobs. You wouldn't see each other all day. Then you see each other in the evening. Some evenings, one of you would be out. But here it's different. You know, you might be at the same co-working space and then you see each other all the time. So I think for us, it was good to have that sort of separation at the beginning, when we were just first dating. Obviously now we have the same apartment because it's a few years on, but while we were in Chiang Mai, we did it that way. And then from there, we just continue to travel. And since then we spent 4 or 5 months in Vietnam. We went to Bali. We were in Malaysia for a few months. And we've done separate trips as well. So we tend to do our visa runs separately to do little kind of individual trips. So we get to kind of have our own independent travel experiences as well, because that's, again, important to both of us. So I've just done little solo trips to Cambodia, Laos, Taiwan, and a few other places just for a week here and there.
That's cool. I like that you both know that you value your independence and that you use the visa run as an excuse or like a way to just have some solo travel time.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm the complete opposite. Like, I hate doing visa runs, but I don't mind doing it if I'm dating someone and with a partner. Like, I think I'm at a point now, because it's been 10 years, that I'm so tired of being on planes and traveling that the idea of boarding a plane, you know, just even for a few hours, just drives me crazy. But if I'm, you know, traveling with someone, especially someone I'm dating, I'm like, oh, this is great. This is like nice. You know, it's like a nice experience to be with them.
Make a holiday out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's funny. Maybe if I carry on traveling as long as you have, it'll be the same way.
Yeah. Because I actually remember like a few months ago, I got invited to speak at the job shipping retreat in Bali, and I almost didn't go. I actually told every single person I'm not going to go. And then Anton emailed me saying, hey, I have a room reserved for you at the, you know, like the Manoa Resort. It's like a really nice room. And I was like, crap, you know, I should probably go. And I was like, I really don't want to do it. But then I think like just started dating someone. Like I think we went on like 2 dates, and I said to myself, like, if she wants to go, I'll go. And if she says no, I'm not going to do it. And luckily she was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then it was a really pleasant experience flying with somebody, having, instead of having, sitting next to two strangers or in between two strangers, like you get to fly cuddle class, and then the entire, 5-hour journey ends up being a nice experience versus like a visa run.
Yeah, definitely. I think with those kind of experiences, if you can make it into a sort of nicer holiday and you're with somebody that, you can have a great time with, then yeah, I know what you mean about the aeroplanes though. I think for me, I do still get excited, that little bit of excitement every time I get on a plane, but it is starting to wear down a little bit, especially if you get a bad flight. Yeah, I've had a few definitely in the past year, so I've got to get another one in a week or so, and I don't know, I'm trying to find ways to avoid it. Yeah,
I'm pretty much the exact same way now. And so we'll see, because I'm going to be doing a lot of flying these next couple of months. But, maybe, yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. So let's fast forward a little bit to your business now.
Sure.
Like, what are you actually working on?
So it's been a couple of years now since I set up. So things have changed slightly. I'm now trying to focus more on the illustration and design side of it. So I don't really do much marketing work now. And I'm lucky that I have a decent amount of clients, and I'm making a decent salary as well. So
are most of your clients from the UK or?
They are, yeah. I think it's a bit more varied now. When I first started, they were pretty much all from the UK, but now there's some from Europe and some from the States as well.
That's actually a really good hack. At the Nomad Summit this year, we had a talk by Lydia, who talked about the benefits of starting locally and then expanding online or globally. And she was from a really small country, relatively, Slovakia, which most people probably never heard of. And she had chosen to start locally in Slovakia, even though, everyone there wants to start in the US or the UK or somewhere a bit bigger. But especially with freelance work, it's so much easier to meet people, get clients in person.
Definitely.
Develop that relationship, get recommended through a friend, and then do a great job for them and just continue working for them remotely.
Yeah, absolutely. And people always ask me, how do you find work? And, do you go on Upwork, or what are the websites that you use? And yes, I have used those. I've used Upwork a few times, but actually I find that a lot of it's word of mouth. And that does surprise me because, obviously I work online, and you think that I find all my work online, but you'd be surprised if you do a good job for someone, they will recommend you to someone else. And so many people just really like a recommendation. And that's how most of my work has ended up coming about. I think now I'm trying to shift a little bit more into being a bit more picky, I guess, and working for clients who are doing projects that I really love and working on things that I'm really interested in. So when you first start out, you kind of just take on anything that anyone gives you. And so I obviously did quite a few dud jobs at the beginning, and things where I wasn't being paid very much money, or the client ended up being a bit of a nightmare. But now I'm trying to kind of get to a stage where I'm only working with people that I really like and working on projects that I really enjoy. And one of my other goals is to grow a side business that I'm doing, which is more based on my illustration. It's called Yoga Art Prints, and I'm basically illustrating yoga poses, and I'm selling them as art prints. Originally they were just as gifts or on Etsy, but now actually I'm selling them more into yoga studios and yoga shops as artwork for the studios. So that's a kind of side business that I'm hoping to grow. It's pretty new, but I'm hoping to grow it this year and make that more of a passive income.
That's really cool. And I think you've earned it now because you went through the struggle. And I think a lot of people just want to jump straight into being picky or jump straight into having passive income.
Unfortunately, it doesn't come that quickly.
Yeah. But, in the beginning, I think just taking the jobs, learning from it, having a little bit of money, a lot of experience, and really kicking butt for the people who kind of deserve great work. Those are the people that you can get referrals from and just continue to grow the business. So congrats on knowing that, kind of going through all of that.
Yeah, thank you. It's taken a while to get the balance, and I would say that at the beginning, it was pretty difficult knowing when to say yes or no to a job, because at the beginning you just want to make as much money as you can because you're scared of running out of money. So I would just literally take on any job that would come my way. But now I ask myself a bunch of questions every time a job comes in. Things like, am I going to enjoy the job? Is the client likely to be really difficult? How much are they paying me? Is it going to be worth the time? Is it for a good cause, something that I believe in? These are all questions I ask myself every time I get offered a job now. And if there are too many no's, then I don't take it.
Yeah, that's really smart. And I'm checking out your site now, Yoga Art Prints.
Oh yeah, that's it.
I think it's awesome. I mean, really cool, unique illustrations. So
Thank
nobody
you.
can copy you because it's your unique illustration.
Yeah, they're hand drawn.
Yeah, and they're printed on bamboo paper. I can see yoga studios loving that. Like, you really know your target market.
Yeah.
How, like, if somebody orders it, how, like, what is the process? I'm assuming, you're not going down the shop, printing it, and then putting it in the mail.
No. Well, actually, I got the idea for this from another podcast episode I listened to from yours by Kat Cocolette. I think it was episode 147. And she's an artist and she does a lot of print on demand stuff. And that gave me the idea for this because I'd always wanted to sell my artwork, but I never knew how that would work remotely. And she does it. She does it very successfully. And I looked into a lot of the methods that she uses. A lot of them are based in the US, and I wanted something that was based in the UK, just to get started. So my process is that I do draw everything by hand. I use Japanese inks and collage, and then I scan in the drawing. And then I work it up on Photoshop. So I get it to a stage where it's artworked, ready to be printed. And I use a particular printer that's based in Shoreditch in London. But there are so many different ones. I'm actually, looking around to find others as well. But that's currently the one I use because for me, the quality of the paper and the quality of the printing was really, really important to me. I want it to be a real fine art print, not a poster. I want it to be a really good quality print. So I use this printer and basically I just upload, I've pre-uploaded all of my print designs to they have like a website where you can have an account and have all your designs already pre-uploaded. So every time someone orders from me, I literally just go onto the site, log in, click the one that I want, it goes to print, I put in the customer's address and it just gets sent straight to the customer and that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's something that, if it gets busy enough or you decide to do a 10-day Vipassana or something, you can literally just have like a VA do it for you.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's definitely something I would look to do if it gets to that stage. Right now, because it's quite new and I haven't spent any time really marketing it or doing anything. I've just set it up and it's been a real passion project. But over the coming year, that's going to be my focus, is to basically cut down some of my hours on my freelance work and dedicate more time to this and start to grow that.
So what I really love is that you took multiple ideas from this podcast from different guests and you instead of saying, oh, it's not going to work for me because I'm not from the US or it's not going to work for me because XYZ, you're like, oh, how can I make this work for me?
Yeah.
And that is the mindset I believe that makes people successful. So like, congrats on listening to that. Kat's actually in Chiang Mai right now.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. We just hung out at that same cafe, like, I think it was yesterday or something.
Oh, amazing. I'll send her a message. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And she's a super nice girl. So I'm glad she's still around and that she's inspiring the next generation.
I met her actually when I first came to Chiang Mai. I sent her a message and told her that she'd given me this idea and we had lunch together. It was really nice. So I have met her one time, but I had no idea she was here at the moment. So that's really cool to know.
Yeah. I think that's what's so nice about Chiang Mai is every year, so many nomads come back for the winter season. So December, January, February. And, a lot of people come for the Nomad Summit. A lot of people come, to escape the winter back home. And it's really just like a perfect reunion. So even though less and less of us are living here year round, just because now we have the freedom to travel, we can go to Europe in the summer, we can go to, all these different places. But also because Thailand in general is actually kind of cracking down on people staying for longer than 6 months a year on tourist visas. So now we kind of have to travel more, which is good. I think it's actually overall very good for the nomad community and for people.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people get kind of comfortable making 500 quid a month or $500 a month and saying, okay, I'm going to live cheaply in Thailand forever. Not leveling up their skills, not going after better clients, not adding multiple streams of income. And they get a bit stuck. And then they complain that it gets harder to make these visa runs versus if people, keep listening to the podcast, keep getting ideas, keep leveling up their business, there's no reason why they can't make $2, $3, $4, maybe $5,000 or more, and then be able to afford to go back to the UK for the summer or go to Europe or go to South America.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chiang Mai is a really inspiring place, and there's so many people that I keep running into again and again. There's great meetups, and even just striking up conversations with people in a coffee shop, you can get ideas for your business or somebody that knows somebody that can help you with this one problem that you have. The amount of times I've seen that happen is amazing. Some of the friends that I met in Chiang Mai a couple of years ago when I first came, we're still good friends now, and we've met up in multiple places all around the world. So it is a special place. Yeah. Yeah,
I love it. So what are your travel plans for the rest of the year?
Well, I'm going to go back to Penang, I think next week for Chinese New Year, because I've always wanted to celebrate Chinese New Year with Chinese people in a country like either China, Hong Kong, or Penang, Malaysia would be perfect. I think they have a big festival, I've heard. So we're going to do that. And then the plan is that Chris, my boyfriend, and I are going to head back to Vietnam for a few months. He has a sustainable products business. He makes bamboo drinking straws, and he has a business called Jungle Straws, and they supply all their straws from a farm in Vietnam. So he needs to work quite closely with the farmers there. So our plan is to go and spend a few months there working remotely, and then just see what happens. We don't really have too many long-term plans. We tend to play it by ear.
I love it. That sounds like such an idyllic dream. I mean, could you imagine this like 10 years ago when you were working at your corporate job?
No. And I don't think I would have dared imagine it then. But I think one thing I've learned is that you should dare to imagine, because if you do imagine it, it can happen. And I think that's one of the things I always tell people to write down their goals. Because for me, that was the key. Write it down. If there's something you want, something you really, really want, write it down, and don't be scared to think really big. Just think of the most idyllic life that you could possibly have and just write it down, because there will be steps you can take to make that life happen.
I love it. And so the two big keys that you had, the two big wants, the things that would make you happy, were to be able to be creative at your job, but also to be able to travel.
Yeah.
Have you now accomplished that?
Yeah, I'm feel so grateful, and I am doing both of those things. I travel pretty much constantly, and I'm being creative in my work, so I'm very, very grateful.
I love it. So for everyone listening to this podcast who you haven't figured it out yet, if you're not living your ideal life, here's some homework. The first is I want you to figure out the two things that would make you very happy. For Molly, it was to be able to be creative at her work and to be able to travel. For you, it might be something else. But figure out what those are. It could be 2 things, could be 3 things, whatever it is. Really just take some time. I mean, pause this podcast and just, go for a walk or something and just think about it and figure what that is. And then once you found it, go back and listen to episode 7 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Go back in the archives and find that goal setting episode with Kurt. He helped me a lot, and he's actually still in Chiang Mai as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he's gotten married now, so I think his life's completely different.
Right.
And we're both very different people now, but he helped me so much in the beginning of really figuring out how to actually set goals that are actionable. So, and that's so cool that you downloaded that PDF, because I was wondering when I uploaded that, I was like, is anyone ever going to actually use this?
Well, if you didn't upload it, I might not be sitting here right now.
Yeah. So, thank you for doing that. And
thanks for uploading it.
And I love hearing stories like this. I would love for I don't know how many, but like a lot of future guests to be people like you who are previous listeners who took action and that are now successful, now happy, now traveling.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people like that on the podcast, and that's one of the things that inspired me as well. People that started off as a listener and then they made it. And it's definitely a really inspiring thing to hear. I remember being in London and commuting on the train and listening to you in my headphones when it was grey and raining and imagining Chiang Mai, and now I'm here. So yeah, anyone can do it.
Well, you made it. Congratulations. For everyone listening back home, wherever you are, you can do it as well. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you've gotten a lot of value out of it, please take a minute to go to the iTunes store, rate it, review it. That way more people can find it, and also share it with your friends. You know, whether you screenshot it and, you know, to put it on Instagram story or on your Facebook, or just tell a friend about it. We would love to get more people listening and get more stories like Molly's. So if people want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's molly.creative. That's MOLLY.creative. My yoga website is yogaartprints.com. And my freelance website is mollymainecreative.com. So yeah, please, if anyone wants to get in contact with me, send me a message about anything. If they just want any advice about anything, I'm always really, really happy to help anybody.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll include links to all those in the show notes. This is Travel Like a Boss podcast, episode 215. And if you guys want to hang out, the next event I'm going to be at, now that the Nomad Summit just ended, is going to be the next Nomad Cruise. That is going to be taking place the first week of April, leaving from Gran Canaria and stopping in Portugal. It's going to be, I think, 7 days, super fun, all-inclusive, put on by my buddy Johannes. So shout out to Johannes and the Nomad Cruise. If you want to join, go to nomadcruise.com. And when you go to the payments page, if you type in the code Nomad Summit, you actually get 50 euros off.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a nice little discount for everyone. And it's a good excuse to come hang out. I'll be on there. I'll be speaking on the cruise this year. And I think that is it. So Molly, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Yeah. All right. Ciao, everyone. And see you all next week, or maybe somewhere in Thailand.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus, How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week. And remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.